Hi everyone, here we are, Sunday night, and you're joining us. Let's hope all the technology works. I did announce it on Instagram tonight, and I put out a post here on YouTube, so hopefully you got that. And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. My name is Amanda here in Italy, and if you're coming back and you've watched lots of the videos, you should be subscribed by now and click the little bell, and then you'll always be told when I'm coming on, so there won't be any need for you to miss any updates. So I'm excited about tonight because, as you might see from the title, I'm going to cover renovation of my very old 300-year-old house in Italy. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. Those of you who've watched my videos in the past when I was reviewing perfume will know, you saw my studio. I did tours of the studio. I did, you saw the kitchen. I've done lots of videos out of the house. So perhaps it won't be so unusual for you guys, but for the rest of you who have recently joined the channel, I made a change a couple of months ago. I was doing videos because people asked me to, on the requirements to move to Italy on an elective visa or applying for dual citizenship and all those kind of official documents that people asked me to do videos. And after I'd done a couple of them, I just got, it was very repetitive and I don't like to repeat myself. And also there's millions of people doing it online and I'd done it. So I much prefer to talk about my story. And if you're inspired to come to Italy or to come to Europe through that story, then that's all the better. And so I decided a couple of videos back, maybe, 8 or so videos back, that I would just tell the story of in my lives that I do every Sunday night. But I do need your help this evening. Apart from liking the video, which people forget to do, go right now when you come in and like the video, and also go down to the description, down in the chat box, and let me know where you're joining from. I love to know that. It helps me enormously to know who's watching, and you can just put your Christian name. You don't need to put your full name and where you're joining from, and that would be lovely. And like the video as soon as you come in. It helps a lot. People say, what difference does it make if I like the video? It makes a huge difference because YouTube actually decides whether they'll push this video out to other viewers based on the likes and based on your participation during the live. And messages always help, of course. So somebody says, Sarah Bailey, Jeffalu. Oh, wonderful. We've got somebody joining us from the beautiful island of Sicily. How lovely. Okay, great. So as I was saying, I've been helping people move to Italy and encouraging people to visit Italy for a very long time. I myself have lived in Italy since 2002. And I always find something every year to fall in love with again. I've traveled north, south, east, west in Italy, and there's always some amazing things to look at and to see. And tonight we're going to talk about some of those things. And we're going to talk about, in particular, me starting the renovation. This will go on to next week's video as well, because I can't cover all of this renovation in one live. But tonight, if you stick to the end, I'll show you some of the results of the house and the walled garden and what we managed to do with all the regular in Italy, the rules. Okay, so I'm just traveling, but originally from Sydney. Oh, how lovely, how stunning. Okay, so we've got an Australian who's in Sicily. How lovely. Okay, so who hasn't watched a channel about renovating a house in Italy? Who hasn't fallen in love with the book Under the Tuscan Sun about Frances May's renovating her house? Right in the early days, if you go back to my first, I will put up the playlist. over there. If you go back to my first video where I arrived in Lucca in Tuscany and my story of how I started in Italy, I used to go to Cortona, had a little car, I used to go to Cortona and visit. And Frances Mays had just started renovating her house then. It was a long time ago. She's written many books since then. But yes, so we've done the Lucca chapter, and I mentioned in that the last of those videos that we, me and my partner, decided to move to Milan because he accepted a job in Milan. I didn't want to live in Milan. We spent about a month in Milan in some temporary accommodation of a friend. And then I started looking in the province of Como, Lake Como, because that's where I wanted to be. So this chapter of my story is going to be about that time looking for a house. We first got an apartment. We rented an apartment and went in and out to Milan every day to work, of course. And then what happened was, after some time, after a year, the lease was up on this apartment, and we decided that, hey, maybe it's time to start looking at buying a house that we can do up. And of course, we had no idea what we were into. My partner, Nick, Italian, so he had some idea. He'd never renovated a house, but he'd obviously been married previously and had a house with his ex-wife, an apartment. But yeah, so we came to this, well, at least I came to this quite green. I'm now going to read to you from my book. That's my book. You can see it, The Long Road Home. It's out of print. I've been asked to republish it, and I'm going to republish it in the near future. And in a future video, I will put an advance booking if you want to book an advance copy of the book. This is in Florence, by the way. And so, yes, it's called The Long Road Home. Anyway, I'm going to read what led us to this house. Okay. So we've been looking for some time. We'd been out with agents. So I'm just going to read for you. I think that that's the best thing. I'll try and skip over to make it as short as possible. So this chapter is called Being Chosen by a House. I always used to say that you couldn't comment on life in Italy if you weren't a resident here. But I now know that you have no idea of the real workings of Italian life until you buy a house. Certainly in our case, buying a property developed our capacity for patience and irony beyond what we could ever have imagined. As my friends in the know had always warned me, there is no end to the curved balls thrown at you by the property market in Italy. Yet we came like lambs to the new green grass, disregarding all the warnings. Just as I said in the Lucca chapter, I ignored all the warnings given to me about being a resident of Lucca. So from the safety of our cozy rented apartment, we began the initiation. Firstly, finding an apartment or a house that is for sale was the first hurdle. The second was finding one that would be available for occupation within a year of buying it. Now, those of you who haven't bought a house in Italy won't know this, but you can sometimes wait 2 years after you've bought this house or expressed an interest or put down your first deposit until you get into the house, because those people then have to plan, and people don't like rushing things in Italy. So if you think you're going to buy a house and you're going to move into it in 2 months, it'll be an empty house and it won't have a single thing in it, because if it's been occupied before, and we saw many houses that were occupied, you ain't going to get into it. So the majority of housing wasn't even constructed yet and was sold off plan. These are units like, a 2-bedroom duplex, new stuff. But I wasn't interested in new stuff. After asking everyone we knew or came across, we finally discovered that buying privately wasn't really done in Italy. And if you want to buy privately and you want to avoid the agents, good luck. It doesn't really work. Later, we realized, after making many evening and weekend visits to estate agents, that we were expected to pay 25% of the purchase price as an offer to take it off the table, to secure it, to be taken seriously. And then, after paying the agent and the notario, which is the notary, another 10,000 up front, plus the balance of the purchase price. We would have to wait for about 9 months to move in. All this while the present owners used our money to finance the purchase of their new condominium, while we would have to continue to pay rent in our apartment. Obviously, we needed to live somewhere, and with no definite date to move in. Moreover, they were not prepared to pay occupational rent for our prepayment on the house while we waited for the notario, the notary, who would take 4 months to register the property in our name. I was told that what the risks were. The risks were that they would change their minds, and if they experienced delays on their not yet built condominium, then they would backfire on our house, not theirs. That our money would be almost impossible to retrieve, since the whole Italian legal system runs on a 5-year delay. Very true. And the advice I'd always been given was never to go to court in Italy if you are in the right, but only if you're in the wrong. Good advice. Still good advice. I wrote this some time ago, but it's still good advice. The solution seemed simple. Choose a house that was already empty. Well, there aren't any. It's incredibly difficult to find any kind of housing in Italy. Even during boom times, Italy has always had a shortage of housing. I don't know why. There's a population of 60 million. If you watch some of my Italy videos, you might get the answer, but I don't know why. There is this chain going on in every city, people waiting to move into a property that they had paid for months ago, while the former owners waited for the rain to stop so the builders could build their new condominium. Yes, that they had already promised 1 year ago to move into. Actually, there are a few empty properties in Italy. They are. But the catch is they are old, they are ancient properties, and they need restoration, and therefore they are uninhabited, since the majority of the apartment-loving generation dream of a new condominium with newly built concrete walls, plastic windows, double glazing, and triple locking windows. We traipsed around with psychopathic agents, showing us examples of building sites that would one day sprout into palaces, while we continually reminded them that we wanted something ancient, old, not new, old, with character. They didn't like the word character. They frowned at the word character. What was character? We were prepared to do some restoration and wanted to be near the train station, because I had to go to work in Milan, obviously. Somehow they couldn't wrap their heads around the fact that we didn't want a condominium. And we really did try. Finally, months later, we boycotted all the estate agents, and we looked in a newspaper published in our province called La Provincia. There in the classifieds, I read something that sounded promising. It was a Saturday morning. We were having a cappuccino in the local bar, so we called the number. There was an answering machine, and we left our number, something we didn't normally do. Miracle of miracles, the call was returned. The man agreed to meet us at the house, which was just across the street from the bar, at 4 p.m. We were so excited over a mere successful appointment. How our expectations had been lowered over the year. So we hung around the door to the double-story house. He'd given us the address, which was right opposite the old tower we had often admired. And we were looking for a tall man, because he described himself as tall. That's the only description we had. Finally, at 4:30, a tall man got out of a very small car and approached us. We entered a darkened house. The shutters were pulled up by him, those metal pull shutters. And then we saw a large living room and a kitchen big enough to have a dining table in, which was one of our things. The thick walls of 1 meter, the high beam ceilings with travi, big old beams. The beams were whole trees, rough, dark, and old. Exactly what we'd asked for, which we were told were chestnut and had been there for hundreds of years. This house was more than 300 years, about 350 years, but the definite date we know is at least 300 years. The start walls were whitewashed, the window frames were chestnut, and the wiring and heating system had to be redone. We climbed the stone stairs leading to the landing on the second floor and discovered 2 huge light-filled bedrooms, the main one with a small balcony, like a Juliet balcony, looking onto a tower which was almost close enough to touch. Here too, the ceilings were high and beamed. The floors had to be redone and had been more or less sort of restored. There was also a bathroom and a laundry which had a ladder leading up to the attic, which we could convert if we wanted to. On the landing opposite the bathroom was a French door to the back of the house, over an arch spanning little private road, which ran into a small courtyard garden at the back. The house was bordered by another ancient barn-like building, a farm building, needing restoration that wasn't part of the property. The walled garden with a grapevine rambling over the big, thick old wall, we were told was for our use, and the back door opened out onto it. We were enchanted. We asked the man if it was his and the price. He told us it belonged to a friend, and he gave us an approximate price. He was working as a sort of agent as a friend. Then he locked up and left, leaving us standing on the pavement, contemplating if this was the house for us. As we stood at the base of this old town front of the house, in the historic center of the village, we both realized something rather serendipitous. This is exactly where we had stopped, because I had had a happy accident here, or as the dictionary defines it, serendipitous discoveries by accident. In the weeks before walking around the village looking for a property, we had stopped near the archway, and I said, this is the kind of place we'd like. There were beautiful old beams underneath this archway, the heavy old beams. Once again, we both admired the town, said we'd like to live near it, and that's exactly where we were. Walking near the tower another day, I looked down and discovered some coins on the pavement. I picked them up and I thought, that's lucky. And here it was, we were standing in front of that exact door. Call it what you will, it was a sign, and it had become our fate. We walked to the station. It was a 4-minute walk, so that was perfect. And that would be a 40-minute journey to work by train for me, but that was great. And we went home to put together our finance, which was not good, and decide what offer we would give. And so started this meeting with the house. Once we got into the house, we went through huge negotiations, which I won't read for you now. Let's get to the house. There was a fireplace in this house, which is what made me fall in love with it. There was the red brick and a stone house with meter-thick walls. And so, the window recesses, the windowsills were wide enough to put a seat on them because the walls were so thick. So in winter, and it snowed quite a lot in the province, in winter, it kept nicely insulated, but it needed a fireplace because those stone walls and that red brick was freezing in the damp of winter. And so I'll just read this little bit for you of the book. A fireplace, sorry, not Facebook. What am I talking about? A fireplace had been closed up, but we were assured we could easily open it as the chimney still existed. We tried to get a reduction in the price of the house to mend some damp on that back wall. Caused by the closed chimney on the downstairs wall, but we were told the courtyard garden was the bargaining point, and we were told we would have that included. So basically, we started looking at what we could do to open this fireplace. In the end, we decided that we would find a stufa. A stufa is a wood-burning stove, and so we spent the months following driving around every little village trying to find an old stufa. I didn't want a modern one in a shop, a modern wood burner. They were horrendously expensive. So we drove around trying to find this old stufa somewhere, and eventually I did. And so we came to know something called a spazzacamino in Italy. Here is his bill, his quote to us. The spazzacamino, and his little picture even shows a little, look at it, the little chimney sweep, something out of Dickens. So the spazzacamino, it says specialized in chimneys and those kinds of things, video inspection of chimneys and fireplaces. Okay. So this was our quote. I'll read it to you. So we found this stove. It was his grandmother's stove. It was about 150 years old, this wood burner, and I restored it. It was all rusted. It was in a garden. I restored it and got it looking beautiful, and it served us for the whole 20 years. Here we are. I'll tell you how much it cost. The video inspection was €100. The Piazza di Partenza, I have no idea what that was €42. This would all be 10 times the price now. Sportello di Ispezione, 103. TEE, don't know what it is, 40. The Cana Monteparete is 227. So in Italy, the law states, so obviously when you renovate an old house, you have to go by all the rules. The most important thing to know about is that the outside of the house cannot be changed without permission. So windows, doors, adding bigger window spaces, adding extra door spaces, or enlarging or changing in any way the exit and the windows to a house always requires permission in Italy, building inspection and permission, which you get from the comune, the municipality. So we decided early on that probably 15 years before our time, someone had installed big windows upstairs and downstairs. There were 4 windows facing out on the piazza, and so we didn't need to change windows. At the back, we also had good window spaces, and the door could have been bigger, both front and back, but it had a stone surround, a granite surround, and we weren't prepared to, get involved in employing a stonemason, which would have been a fortune. But we did have to cut away something on the back exit of the house to make it easier to come into the house because they'd built a small wall. Anyway, so the immediate thing was that one of the rules in Italy with installing a fireplace, or most importantly a wood burner, is that you have to have a stainless steel sleeve, a sleeve that goes up the chimney, even if it has an existing chimney, and it has to be stainless steel. And we had already heard that they were crucially expensive, horrendously expensive, and hence the Spazzacamino's quote. So basically, all of this stuff that he did, putting in, so he had to open up that chimney. We had to find the same red bricks to go on, because we wanted an exposed brick wall on that chimney wall. Then the rest of the house was plastered. and we chose a paint for that. I'll talk about that. I went into a lot of detail. I wanted it to be a Tuscan home. I had researched it all. I knew exactly the color, how we were going to mix the paint. I knew all of this. So we wanted that exposed wall that the wood burner would sit in front of, and it was little red bricks. So we had to go and find the exact red bricks for him so he could open that, put in the stainless steel sleeve, because at the back of that chimney there was a small little building where the water boiler was, and that the exhaust for that went also into that chimney. So this had to, a separate little chimney space had to be built in that bigger chimney for these, the exhaust fumes from the fireplace, from the wood burner, the stufa as it's called, stufa di ghisa in Italian, ghisa being cast iron. And so that was his quote. So he had to open that chimney, install this huge stainless steel thing that had to go quite far up because sparks, it has a spark arrestor. There's a whole lot of things that are law in Italy that have to be in place. His total quote to us, the Spazio Camino, was 2,800 euro. It was about 3,000 all told because he threw in the stove, which I bought from him for 150 euro. And then renovated, spent many weekends with sandpaper, renovating and painting. Okay, so this lovely receipt I still have from the Spazio Camino. So we knew that we wanted to install this stove, this wood-burning stove, and we knew that it was going to be very costly, and we just hoped that everything went well. We didn't need to ask permission, any building permission, because we analyzed it all and decided we were not going to go through that very long process of going to the Comune and asking for permission to do anything. We just didn't want to do it. I'm going to have a tiny break. Sarah Belly says, prices are moving upwards very fast. Been looking in Sicily in the last 6 weeks. Definitely no €1 houses. I've done a whole post on €1 houses. You should go and watch that. It's a trap that lots of people don't fall into that trap. As in my opinion, it's much better to choose the region you want and spend 60 to 100,000 and get the house you want, and then just add, the details that you want or renovate the inside. So we had decided to not renovate the details in large window spaces and stuff because it would be so complicated. So the law is you can change what you like on the inside as long as you don't remove a load-bearing wall. And talking of load-bearing walls, the neighbor some years later, who we shared a wall with because we were semi-independent. This side we had no neighbor, and that side we had a neighbor, so semi-detached, right in the center of the historical center. He took down one weekend, just went completely crazy and took down a whole load-bearing wall, which got the village going, and the municipality had to intervene. So you can change anything you want on the inside of the building, but you cannot actually take down a load-bearing wall or change any of the windows. So you can't do structural changes. You can do flooring, you can paint, you can put blinds up, you can do whatever you like, but you cannot change it structurally without permissions. And many people fall into this trap in Sicily, in the south of Italy, thinking, I'll just make this into my dream thing. I'll add another level. I'll change the tiny door into a bigger. It's going to be a nightmare. It's going to take years to get permissions and finding the right builder. Okay, so we decided we're going to do all of this ourselves, and what we couldn't do, any plumbing or stuff, we would get somebody in, but we managed to do just about all of it ourselves. Okay, I want to show you what it looked like. It was a complete dump, the garden. They just chucked car tires and all sorts of things. It had been standing empty for quite a while. There was this beautiful old wall the walled garden at the back, the cortile that I love, the courtyard. I loved, and there were these gorgeous old stone granite pillars. But that's what it looked like. It was a complete and utter mess. There was just stuff chucked everywhere. This old building here, which was our neighbor, we shared this wall here, hadn't upkept the roof, so they were building 3 luxury apartments here eventually, but it never happened. But that's the mess that we inherited. But I fell in love with the pillars, these gorgeous old granite pillars, and of course the beams. But yeah, it was a bit of a mess, but I could see how it was going to be. That was the back of the house. You can see, you know, it had this old big old wall, but it was in a sorry state. This old gate had been here for 200 years. There was the little village road. This was a farmhouse. This had been a farmhouse, and it had been there that long. And there was the old fianilo, which is where they store the straw. But this gate, which had a crest on the top of it, remains there to this day. Okay, so it was in a lot of need of love and care, but I could see that it was going to be amazing. And, you know, it was 2 up, 2 down. It had an archway. You could see a lot of the, you know, the brickwork and stuff needed work, but I fell in love with it. And yeah, and it had this beautiful old archway here, the tower across, but the archway, so opposite side here, that had beams. So anyway, that was the project that we took on. And I did promise you, if you stuck out till the end, let me know in the comments if any of you are still here. Some of you are obviously going to watch this back. The very first winter that we had in the house, we had huge amount of snow. So that building over there up the top is the fianilo. Hi, somebody. I love the way you tell your story and the details that moved your heart to buy the house. I'm a romantic like you. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm hugely romantic. And this house certainly answered me back. So this was the garden. We just put a plastic table and chairs out there while we were renovating it. There's our cat sitting on our newly opened back entrance door. We had to take out a little low wall here. And it was snowing like crazy. In future, when I do the updates of this story, I have some videos of the cat in the snow. But that was what the garden looked like. But for me, it was wonderful because there was this walled garden, and I could see what it was going to be like. Anyway, I'm now going to fast forward a few photos as we go, and I'm going to tell you more. Oh, I love the way you're sending me hearts. So here is the fireplace. You can see the big old beams in the ceiling, and here is the fireplace with the brick ceiling here. Sorry, it's always upside down. There is the fireplace on the back wall and the lovely terracotta floors. And we had a wonderful, wonderful time putting in this fireplace and the gorgeous floors, which are terracotta. But the biggest love for me was the garden. I had always wanted a walled garden. I love the fact that this house was 300 years old. And those pillars that you saw so miserable and neglected, this is my antique roses. I planted roses, started a rose garden, and these are the beautiful pillars, the granite pillars, marble pillars from 350 years ago, from a different era. They were protected by the municipality, but this is my antique rose growing against it. I'm now going to show you. The garden became a place where we had amazing events, amazing lunches. We put a big table, and I had many happy. That's what the garden looked like. I had all my roses. I had a lawn. And then we had a little underneath the terrace, the wisteria that I planted and all the roses. It was truly a work of love. And the garden was worth every bit of work I put into it. I will just keep showing you garden photos. This is the view from the upstairs looking out onto the historical center of the village with the tower. You can see that's through the window. And I'm going to keep going. You deserve it for staying with me. The kitchen that we renovated from scratch with a big table. So I was talking about the paint. I found sienna, which is a sort of rich burnt sienna color, and mixed it myself, mixed it to exactly a lovely butter shade that the whole house was painted in. And then we had those lovely red brick details. So this is a corner of the garden underneath where all that junk was that you saw in the original. I made this gorgeous corner with a wisteria under the beams, and many people came to stay when we went on holiday. We Airbnb'd and people would come and stay, and everyone commented they loved being outside, having a glass of wine in underneath the beams with the wisteria and the roses. I will obviously give you some video clips in future videos. I think I'm going to put together all my clips and make a video of the restoration of the house. But tonight I'm just telling the story. This is the kitchen. You can see the beautiful light that comes in, and the very thick walls and the beams. And we had a huge big table that seated 10. And yeah, it was exactly as I wanted. A lot of work. We basically worked every weekend for, I would say, about 2 years. And it was quite funny because there was a beautiful old restaurant. This is the view from my upstairs bedroom with the little Juliet balcony and the wood floors. And yeah, it was really a gorgeous view from my bedroom. Hi. Oh, how beautiful, so romantic. Nothing like a garden where you can enjoy nature. Exactly. So going back to the book, my book, which you can certainly pre-order when I republish it, because it went out of print and I'm going to republish it. We would laugh because we worked like we would spend the whole day from early morning to night covered in paint, covered in plaster, chipping off plaster. Our hair would be completely encrusted with plaster. And then it would get to about 8 o'clock. There was, originally the lights and electricity hadn't been switched on because we were going back to the apartment and coming every day. There was water. The water was on, but because we had to mix plaster and cement and stuff. But there was no lights. And so when it got to, this was summer, about 8 o'clock, we would be sweating and tired, and we would literally just wipe some of the plaster off our faces and walk down to the gorgeous little restaurant that was an antique restaurant in a building that we were copying because it had exactly the walls we wanted. It was an old Tuscanite building with these gorgeous red brick parts that were exposed, and then this lovely buttery yellow plaster with it. And we used to go and eat there. We used to come in and they would expect us. And everyone else was all elegant, coming for a lovely Italian dinner. We would roll in there, sort of pull on a clean T-shirt or something, but look horrendous. And we would always sit out on the veranda and then eat mounds and mounds of pasta that they served us because we were starving. We'd been working all day like laborers and we wanted something to eat in the evening. And we did that for ages. And I remember we used to laugh ourselves silly that all these elegant people were coming in to eat their dinner and we just couldn't wolf down this pasta quick enough and then get back in the car and drive back to the apartment and have a bath, because we were literally, and we worked like the Dickens for 2 whole years, doing everything ourselves. The kitchen was all built to us, the upstairs bedroom, the flooring, everything, putting in the stove, getting everything situated. So anyway, I'm going to read for you a little bit of resolution here in the book. As I say, it is going to be republished, and I will let you know the link when it is. Okay, it'll be down in the description box, but I will also put down in the description box a playlist of the last few stories so you can follow the story from the beginning. Great. Okay, what followed was the most back-breaking work I have ever done. We had decided that we would take the wall that housed the chimney for the wood burner back to the bricks. So we started chipping off the cement and plaster from 100-year-old bricks to get a wall that looked rustic and Italians called grezzo, or rough. It was slow progress. We had promised that the jackhammer that the spazzacamino is the chimney sweep. For those of you who came in halfway through the video, that was his quote to us. He's called a spazzacamino in Italy. I love it. Spazzacamino literally translated means that you brush the chimney, brush the fireplace. He would use these bricks to open the wall for the chimney. As I mentioned, he had to open this ancient chimney, open it up, put the stainless steel sleeve in it, and then close it again with all the bricks. Would be used to take off this layer at the same time. Unfortunately, the tool, this jackhammer, stopped working after the hole was cut. So we had to do everything by hand. And like the courtyard outside, which was our bargaining point, so dust was covering everywhere. We were exhausted. We were covered in dust because we had to chip everything off by hand. We chipped away at rock hard cement, making painful progress. Finally, when there was only a square foot left, only a square foot of this enormous wall that we'd done, plus all the other chipping and brickwork that we'd done, Nicola said he just couldn't go on as his forearm was too sore. This big, muscly man. And and the chisel kept on slipping. So I gave into the frustration of coming so close that we could finish this wall and be finished and put it to bed. No, it wasn't finished. I called him a big baby and a mommy's boy because I was so frustrated. And he agreed that he was. We went home to the apartment, had a shower, fell into bed as usual, completely exhausted. But fast forward, it's early June. We had started 2 years before. The bedrooms upstairs have been painted a soft butter yellow color. And when the sun hits the fresh paint, it looks light and warm. We have screwed together bookshelves, beechwood bathroom and kitchen units, taken the head of our metal frayed bed on ropes up the balcony window. It wouldn't go up the stone staircase, which was too narrow. And installed gas in Scaricol, which is your water and your sewage, water under the sink. We are resting in the sun in the courtyard. We are sitting and it's full of greenery under the grapevine and huge pink hydrangeas, which have recovered amazingly. We make a fire outside between these rocks. We made like a fire pit. And we sit side by side on our rocks because I don't even think we had chairs. And we cook seafood kebabs, spiedini as they're called in Italy, with prawns and everything, on an old vine wood fire pruned that season. The stove inside has been lit. He doesn't miss an opportunity to test it again, although the temperatures are soaring. So we tested it in summer. We built this fireplace in the stufa, built a fire just to test it, even though it was summer, because we spent so much money and energy on getting this wood burner right. The stove inside has been there. Next winter we will be warm, we both say together. Oh, Expensive, but it works, I say. There's a feeling of great achievement. The swifts are with us. The swallows nested in the same place under the eaves every year, and they would go to Africa late summer, beginning of autumn, and then come back in the spring. And we lived our lives according to when the swifts were coming and going, and we watched them. They were building all their nests when we were sitting in the garden. The bells in the village begin to sound. We are perched in the most ancient part of town between two large parish churches, one adorned with angels trumpeting with saints and popes, and the other with arched porticos and magnificent frescoed ceilings. Since there is only about 300 meters between the two churches, with us in the middle, when they ring, we don't only hear them, we feel them. The steady increasing ding dong and a single louder stroke dong. In the mornings, an entire sweet tune is rung out. All our labors here, including many pages of this book, have been accompanied by these two big bells. It's a sound I've always loved, and a sound I now associate with home. I wake up to them in the morning, and I try to be in bed before midnight strikes. Talking about the future. So there we are. That's what I'm going to tell you for today. And just being in my garden with the lovely pink hydrangeas, which echo the furniture, and all the lovely summer garden parties we had with our huge table in this garden. Sorry, these pictures don't come out as they should on here, but just to give you a taste of the rose garden. And what I will do, I will link in the description box. I did a video of my garden, and I will put that in the description box. If you come back to watch, or if you came in halfway and you watch this back, or if you're watching this later, because not everyone can join us, I will put it in the description, a video of the garden, so you can go and see what it was like in real life and some of the house. Let me read some of your comments. Thanks for sticking by, and thanks for the likes. When you're young, it's all fun and laughter. Now Mr. Arthur has had the last word. Wow, I wasn't young when we started this. I can tell you, I wasn't young when I came to Italy. If you watch my first part in Luca, you'll realize it wasn't that young. Moving from Florida to Trento on Tuesday. How amazing, Mark. I know you've joined us in the past. Thank you for coming back and joining. How lovely. You'll have to go back and watch the beginning. Oh, hi, I'm so thrilled for you. That's lovely. You'll have to be in touch. You'll have to send me an email. So I'll put in the description box. Well done, Mark. Congratulations that you're coming on an elective visa. Trento is a beautiful city. You'll be super happy there. Okay, people. So I like to keep this to about 50 minutes, just under an hour. I hope you enjoyed the excerpts I read from the book. And I've been asked, when am I going to make it available? It's going to be republished soon. I'm just talking about it now. And then I will put a link down in the description box where you can get it. It talks about my beginning, the stories you've been listening to from the beginning of Italy to buying the house. That's us in Florence, near the Uffizi. It is really the story of discovering Italy, and it's great for anybody who has fallen in love with Italy just like I did. And yes, so I'm going to leave you with a picture of the video, the kitchen, with the light coming in, the garden. And I hope to see you on the next video. And the next one, I'm going to go into details of what we did in terms of, you can see maybe the top of the pillar. It should be that way, sorry. You can see the blue sky of the roof. This is the beautiful old pillar with the details of the granite. Ancient old pillars, 350 years old, on our portico veranda, and my antique rose, Madame La Grace de Saint-Germain, growing. I grew many, many, many roses there, and absolutely gave me lots of joy. So I'm going to leave this edition for now. Hope you enjoyed. Please drop down in the comments and tell me what you like, what you didn't like. I promised I needed to ask you something. So generally, this is when I do my live at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. But there are lots of people in the States who would find it a different time good. So I'm going to ask you to vote. I'm going to ask you, if you're on now, to write it in the text box. If you're watching this back, write it in the comments. Would you prefer 9 o'clock on a Sunday night or early on Sunday morning? By early, I mean about 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, which that's Italy time I'm giving you. So in other words, it would be late at night, the night before in America. Australia, I don't know, you can decide. So right now, whether you'd prefer this time that I'm giving you now, 9 o'clock on a Sunday night, because I've been asked to maybe change the time to enable other people to join, or if you would prefer Sunday morning, about 9 to 10 o'clock, which in America would be, I think, the night before, late the night before. So there we are. Let me read and see. Oh, thank you. You did a beautiful job reading your book and showing us your house. I love the pillars, the gardens, the roses. What a lovely person you are, Paisley. Won't you go on the video and leave me a comment? Because most people can't see the chat, because once the live goes off, the chat is no longer available. So I'd love you to go and leave, all of you. Mark, won't you go and leave a comment on the video? It'll be published as soon as I go offline. Leave me a comment there and share with your friends. I always say, YouTube suggests my videos according to the likes that are given. So I don't know how many people are watching, but you can go and hit the like button now. The subscription, if you haven't subscribed, it's free. Come on, what are you waiting for? And comments. A comment on a video tells YouTube that there's engagement, that people are interested, and it suggests my videos to other people, and I'm growing the channel. So please, won't you go and leave me a comment? So thank you for joining tonight. It's always such a pleasure to chat to you about Italy and my great love and my garden in this case and my home. And see you on the next one, next Sunday, same time, same place. And I will put up a playlist in the description box of other videos you can watch, one of which will be my garden. Okay, take care. See you on the next one. Thanks for joining. Bye from Italy. Bye. See you soon. See you soon. Bye. Bye.